I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the case everyone is talking about, the tragic abduction of Nancy Guthrie. A lot of attention, a lot of resources have been put into this case, this investigation, but still, no arrests or any proof of life. Here's the story. Nancy Guthrie lived peacefully in the Catalina foothills. At 84, she remained independent and close to her children. Saturday night, January 31st, she returned home after dinner. By Sunday morning, she was gone. Family members who checked on her found signs of a disturbance and contacted police. Deputies quickly classified the home as a crime scene. Blood confirmed to be Nancy's was found outside. Authorities revealed another troubling detail. Digital systems tied to her security and medical monitoring were disabled during the night. Investigators believe she was abducted. Surveillance later showed a masked individual outside her home. The FBI is now involved. Ransom letters appeared publicly, adding another layer of uncertainty. But despite the intense investigation and national focus, Nancy's whereabouts remain unknown. I don't think any of us, when this story first broke on that Sunday into Monday and the world realized what was happening here, I don't think anyone imagined that all these days later, 3.5 weeks later, we'd be sitting here still with no answers. No answers. Let's bring in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, great to see you. So we've seen some more activity at Nancy Guthrie's house. What was going on here?
Yeah, Vinny, it seemed there was a flurry of official-looking activity going on at Nancy's house throughout today, and there's been reports online saying that this was the feds doing one last sweep, seeing if they left any stone unturned, seeing if there's any possibility that there was any form of evidence that was overlooked. Now, people arrived at the house dressed in suits. We're looking at some of them on the screen right now. Presumably special agents with the FBI. They seem to be standing with someone who's a little more casually dressed. And I'll admit, when I first saw this video, I thought that might have been Cameron Guthrie, Nancy's son, but it's unclear if that is him. Now, News Nation's Brian Enton, excuse me, also posted this video on X as well, showing a similar vantage point, but a different angle of those same people outside the front door there. You see them standing, talking, obviously unclear as to what they were talking about. Enton also posted this video on X as well, another video showing a convoy of vehicles in the driveway. Now, we know there were reports of vehicles coming and going throughout the day, but again, unclear as to what exactly they were there for, but clearly there's a bunch of vehicles. You see all the caution cones and stuff outside of the house, media's pushed back and everything. Now, there was also an unmarked SUV that pulled into the garage. There you see it pulling out of the garage, but they pulled in earlier when they were arriving. They closed the door, don't know who was in it. They're leaving there now in this video, but don't know who was in it, why they went inside the house, whatever they're looking for. So, Vinny, we got a lot going on here, a lot of moving parts, a lot going on, and there's been a couple of updates with law enforcement as well. The FBI has said they'll be moving their command posts from Tucson back to Phoenix. That's where their headquarters is. And also, the Pima County Sheriff's Office has said they will start limiting their updates to instances when new information warrants release instead of the daily updates that we've been seeing. So, Vinny, all of this activity, all this to say, it could be pointing towards a standstill in this investigation. We'll have to just wait and see.
Yeah, obviously they don't tell us everything, but like you can kind of read the room a little bit. All right, Cody's going to stick around this whole hour. Let's get to that first question in our investigation. And it's about the investigation. Has the investigation slowed down? Do we get a feeling that things are cooling off a little bit right now? Joining me, forensic death investigator and host of the very popular podcast, Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan. Joseph Scott Morgan is with us, and the East Coast contributor for Los Angeles Magazine, Lauren Conlin, with us as well. All right, Lauren, I'll begin with you. Do you get the feeling that things are slowing down a little bit out in Tucson?
Vinny, I hear what you're saying, but there was just $1 million reward offered. I really don't think that things are going to be slowing down anytime soon. I think that it can feel that way because we are getting less updates from Pima County. But to me, the activity at the home today, I mean, it looked, again, like FBI agents who maybe hadn't been to the home before that are getting inundated with tips, and maybe they just have to familiarize themselves with that home. Additionally, Fox News also confirmed that federal prosecutors were actually at the Guthrie home as well.
Whoa.
And I don't want to be negative at all, and I want to be sensitive about this, and I know it's early, but it crossed my mind, could we possibly be moving into a no-body homicide? I mean, there's so much unknown, and again, I know it's early, but that was a thought that I had.
All right, Joseph Scott Morgan, you've been on the other side of that crime scene tape, right? Give us an idea here. Like, do you get the feeling that things are slowing down, heating up, cooling off? Where do you think we are based upon what we're learning and what we're seeing and what we know?
Changing course, I think. No, I don't think it's slowing down. And we're 25 days downrange since this happened. And Vin, as you know, in a criminal investigation, an investigation like this is not a long time. But let me drop some breaking news on you right now.
Yes, please.
25 minutes. As of about 25 minutes ago, NBC is now reporting that the authorities will be turning the home back over to the family. And I was gobsmacked when I saw that. So that kind of correlates with what our colleague said just a moment ago. They're pulling up stakes and they're heading back to Phoenix. I mean, I don't know. I guess our work is done. And also to, kind of dovetail with what Lauren said, when I saw those folks walking around that scene, it smelled like prosecutor to me when I saw them in their suits and this sort of thing. And I know some people were dressed down. Those look like prosecutors to me. And I don't know if they're from Pima County or if they're the feds, but they're trying to get a look and they're trying to paint this picture as if they're preparing for something, Ben.
Yeah, and a couple different directions. You could be preparing to present something to a grand jury. You can be preparing something to try to get a warrant in front of a judge, but generally you don't have to go there for that. It does seem much more serious. But the release of the home is really surprising to me. But Lauren, we have seen, I mean, for days and days and days, we've seen them comb over the acre plus of the land. We've seen them in the neighborhood. We know that they've been inside the house. So are you surprised that the home will be going back to the Guthrie family? And what do you expect that they'll do there, Lauren? Do you think that they'll actually spend time there?
I mean, I'm not surprised at this point, but I think that I've been sort of conditioned with this case not to be surprised. There's been so much activity at that home, basically from day one. I mean, what we're dealing with here, in my opinion, has not been normal. It was contaminated from day one. And up until today, we've seen pool cleaners, the mailman, reporters just going up and down the steps. It's been very crazy, in my opinion. And just to clarify with Joe Scott, these are federal prosecutors, and that has been confirmed. And going back to something that Cody said about the black SUV in the garage, I'm thinking to myself that they are still collecting evidence and they don't want us to see it. They are trying to hide anything they can just because there are so many reporters and live streamers and just people outside of that home tracking their every move, that they do want to keep some kind of secrecy, in this investigation here.
All right, Joseph Scott Morgan, tell me this now. If you release the home to the family, right, so the crime scene's released, and then you catch someone and you end up learning more details about what happened. Like, let's say, for instance, maybe there's 2 or 3 people involved and one person provides a lot of information to you, and wouldn't that give you an opportunity to want to go back in there to maybe confirm some of this stuff or look for something that you didn't think about looking for initially, and now that becomes much more problematic?
Yeah, it does, because now you've got the attorneys in the mix at this point in time, and it's one of the things that I always preach to my students. you know, you can set, and I'm just using crime scene tape as an example. If you set your perimeter up very, very broadly, you can always contract it. But here's the problem. You can't always expand it because that outer area has been contaminated. Vin, just like Lauren said just a second ago, brother, they took that tape down within, what, 36 hours?
Yeah.
From Jump Street, all right? You've already got a problem there. And I've been harping on this since it happened. I don't understand it. I'm not on the inside, obviously, but I don't understand why, in the sweet Lord's name, you would release this scene so early on and then have somebody else go back in and probably replicate some of your earlier work. It just didn't make sense to me. And now they're going to release the property completely. So I don't, in that sense, I don't know where it leaves us. I know that anything that happens afterwards or to this point, if they hook somebody up on charges, they need to verify something. I hope they've gotten everything done that they need to do, because now you run the risk. Any second-year law student can go in and say, well, they've contaminated this now. Yeah. You know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to, you know, kind of pry that out.
It is shocking. All right, Joseph Scott Morgan's going to stick around. Lauren Conlon, always great to see you. LA Magazine, always breaking news here on the show. Thanks so much. Coming up next, what does the blood reveal?
This entire team here, those behind me, and our community are hurting with you.
Lori has paraded around portraying herself as widow and victim while trying to profit from a book about his death. I never knew evil like this existed.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8/7 Central on Court TV.
I've worked hard all my life. I learned the secret to success is speaking in your authentic voice. And I bring that lesson to my show every morning.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Weekday mornings at 8/7 Central. Only on Court TV.
We still believe. We still believe in a miracle. We still believe that she can come home. Hope against hope. As my sister says, we are blowing on the embers of hope.
Savannah Guthrie's latest message, again, holding on to hope that they'll find their mom alive, but also acknowledging publicly for the first time that they do realize there is a chance that she is already dancing in heaven with her late husband and with other family members. So there's that reality that the family does understand, but you can see it and you can hear it from Savannah that they will never give up hope until they know for sure what happened to their mom. Let's bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Cody, one of the reasons from the beginning, I think a lot of us were very concerned about Nancy, was the blood that was found outside that front door. Can we take a closer look tonight and give us a little more context and perspective on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing we know about that blood, it was sent off for testing, and of course the DNA came back matching Nancy's. Now, when we look at images of that blood spatter, Vinnie, we see that it only sits maybe a foot, maybe 2 feet from the front door. You see the base of the house back there. We got a closer look at the blood spatter right there. Something else notable to look at, though, Vinnie. We isolated a zoomed-in still image from the suspect doorbell camera video. Zoomed in where we can see that front doormat. You see the suspect video, black and white, on the left. The image we were just looking at on the right, colorized. We flipped it up 180 degrees so it kind of aligns with each other. Now, we see that doormat. It extends from the door 2 rows of squares outward from the door. You can see where the curve in the mat lines up with the bottom line of the 3rd row of squares there. Now, again, we flipped the images of the blood on the right upwards to kind of match the suspect video. You see that square off to the left of the mat in the suspect video is clear, while on the right, blood spatter is obviously there. So what does that tell us? Sometime between that suspect being there and Nancy's abduction, that blood got there on those squares. Now, the thing about it, Vinnie, is that police say no blood was found anywhere else inside the house or outside the house, only found in that particular spot, which to me means there was a lack of a blood trail. Now, I was out there in Tucson, Arizona, and, you know, out in the street, I wasn't up in the driveway because it was closed off to media and pretty much everybody else outside of law enforcement and investigators. But that front door, here's an aerial view. It's about 35, maybe 40 yards from the road directly in front of the house, which feels to me like the suspect had to have a towel or something ready to catch the blood immediately once Nancy started bleeding. The whole thing is just strange that the blood was found directly in those 1 or 2 squares right outside the front door, nowhere else.
And nowhere else. And nowhere else. All right, Cody, thanks so much. That brings us to the next question in our investigation. What does the blood reveal? Right? This was a big deal, and it's tied directly to Nancy Guthrie. Still with me, the host of Body Bags, forensic death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan. Joining me, retired police officer and expert in analyzing crime scenes, Dr. Mike McCutcheon. All right, Joseph Scott Morgan, you wrote the book, right? Blood Beneath My Feet. What does this blood reveal?
Well, that's a memoir, but yeah, I can talk to some of this. To me, the deposition of blood that you're seeing there, if you look at the larger droplets, that's kind of a gravitational impact where it's kind of falling straight down. Just think, and you know, Vin, you remember you and I covered Jodi Arias, right? And you remember the sink, right? And so leaning over the sink with Travis Alexander, you had these kind of larger droplets that were falling away. But I've seen a couple of photos of this deposition where it's a bit clearer and tighter, and you can see almost this histamine-like deposition that's contained in there, which in our work, that's something that we would refer to as potential expirate. So you have free-falling blood, the bigger droplets, you know, that could be consistent with a busted lip or a bleeding nose. And then you have expirate, which is, you know, kind of like blowing out or coughing up. It's interesting that, just as Cody had stated, what we're hearing now is that there's no evidence that the blood passes into the home or passes away from the home. I'm just spitballing here. I was really thinking, did this individual cradle her at this point in time and transport her away? Remember, she's partially infirm. She's, I'm not going to say non-ambulatory, but she has to have assistance, and this person has to move quick. Is that what happened? I have no idea. But that subject would have transfer onto his person if that's the scenario.
All right, Dr. Mike McCutcheon, what does this blood reveal to you?
I agree with Joseph on a lot of his points there. The blood that's there isn't enough for, isn't a large bloodletting event. It's not something that would, be fatal. It is either a small wound, or if she had a bloody nose or something like that. You see that blood is falling directly down. That's why you get the circular drops. It's not moving. It's not impact spatter. It is not cast off spatter, which is coming off of a weapon. It could be, you do see those smaller droplets. If you have those droplets, if she had a bloody lip and spit, just trying to clear her mouth, that is possible. But the significance is interesting because when it first came out and the family went in the house, they didn't notice any blood. They didn't call the police right away because they thought she just might be missing. And I always found that odd. I'm like, there must have been more blood that they saw, and that wasn't the case. And so when I see that small amount, did the event that caused this bloodletting event happen on the steps, or was there a towel or something that they were catching the blood, and then as they were moving her, it got released? That I don't know, but such a small amount of blood is it says it was accidental or something that is not a major event to cause serious injury.
How about the placement, Joseph Scott Morgan? When you look at that front door, it looks like if you're looking at the house, it's a little bit to the right of the door, which is kind of in line with where the camera is, versus being, walking straight out the door, straight down the sidewalk, or through the porch towards the sidewalk. It's a little bit to the side. Does that have any significance?
Well, I think it does. The location of it, and this is purely speculative on my part, not seeing the actual crime scene photos. If you're looking at the relationship between the door and where that door latch is and where the Nest camera had been seated in there, that door swings out toward and over this area. If this was just, and please forgive me for saying this, but I'm, again, spitballing. If this was just to kind of stun her, to get her attention, you will comply. It could have taken place right there. And that placement is significant. And we still don't know anything about a waiting vehicle, that may have been right down the drive. Cody had talked about, I think his estimate was like 30 to 40 feet or 30 to 40 yards to the rear or away from the door back to the roadway. And was there more than one person involved in this to get control over her, to make her comply? And it's a horrible thing to think about, but I've had many days to kind of consider this over this period of time, because it is, Vince, so isolated. And as Doc said just a second ago, this is not, you don't look at that in forensic pathology. We say, there is an amount of blood here that's incompatible with life. That's not what you're looking at here. Okay, this is like some kind of spontaneous event that deposition is right there. So I don't know. That's speculative at best on my part, but that's the best guess I got.
Joe Scott Morgan, thank you so much. Always great to have you. Dr. Mike McCutcheon sticking around. Still to come, why? Why was Nancy Guthrie taken? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the abduction of Nancy Guthrie, a story the public is invested in. Everyone is hoping for a safe return of Savannah Guthrie's mom, but everyone, including the family, realizes it may be too late. Here's the story. The break in the case didn't come from a witness. It came from technology. Nancy Guthrie disappeared from her Tucson home overnight. Authorities say evidence shows she did not leave on her own. Blood identified as hers was found at the scene. The investigators revealed a critical twist. Home security systems and digital monitoring connected to her pacemaker were disabled during the time frame in which she vanished. Surveillance footage, which was later recovered, showed a masked person outside the home. Ransom communications followed, though law enforcement has not confirmed their authenticity. Now the FBI has joined the search. An elderly woman with medical needs is missing, and investigators are racing against time. Here we go. The investigation continues, and still we're at a place where there's no arrest, no one's been taken into custody, no one's been named as a suspect, and obviously Nancy has not been found. I want to bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas. Let's go back through everything here, because I think it's important every once in a while to do a little bit of a reset. Sometimes when the latest stuff comes out, we forget about everything else that we've learned. So what do we know here about what happened and the abduction of Nancy Guthrie?
Well, of course, we know about a handful of things that have happened over the past few weeks, but let's start from the top, where it is believed that Nancy was taken from the comfort of her own bed. Take a listen.
It is day 24 since our mom was taken in the dark of night from her bed. And every hour and minute and second and every long night has been agony since then, of worrying about her and fearing for her and aching for her, and most of all, just missing her,
Now, early on in the investigation, of course, we know the sheriff spoke about a timeline of what they believe went down that night, and they touched on specifics, and they also touched on the fact that they had no suspects. Take a listen to this.
This is a timeline that we have been able to develop with some of the things that we've had processed. Various pieces of electronics that we've gathered. Sunday morning, early morning at 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnects. At 2:12 a.m., software detects a person on a camera, but there's no video available. They had no subscription, and therefore it would rewrite itself, it just kind of loops, right, and covers up. That's what our analysis teams have told us. We're not done with that. We'll do all we can, but That's what it says. So that detects a person on camera. Could that be an animal? I imagine that's possible. We don't know that. We just have no video. But we're not giving up on that. 228. Nancy's pacemaker app shows that it was a disconnect from the phone.
When you say the doorbell camera was disconnected, do you believe that camera was taken?
We do not have it in our possession. We've not located it. We just really don't have enough to say, this is our suspect, this is our guy, we know, or our gal. We just don't know that. And it's really kind of reckless to report that someone is a suspect when they could very well be a victim. It just, I bring to you, to the media, I plead with you to be careful of what it is we put out there, because we don't have anybody here listed as a suspect.
So no suspects at the time of that press conference, but now we've all seen that infamous video of a suspect creepily going outside of Nancy Guthrie's home, but the footage was not time-stamped. That's important to note. But take a look at this. So now we have a suspect, but Vinnie, we can't forget about the enormous amount of ransom notes that started coming in once this investigation started. The first one coming into TMZ with a demand of $6 million in Bitcoin. Then an imposter gets arrested for trying to take advantage of the situation, take advantage of the Guthrie family's pain. Then another note demanding money for information on who sent the first note demanding $6 million in Bitcoin. Meanwhile, the deadline for that Bitcoin note passed, and there was still no proof of life, no sign of Nancy. TMZ founder Harvey Levin had this to say about the ransom notes on his network. Take a listen.
This is a highly sophisticated demand involving a form of crypto, not Bitcoin. Now, it is demanding roughly the same amount as the demand letter we received, shortly after the kidnapping, the $6 million demand. The demand graphically describes the consequences if the demand is not met.
So here we are now, Vinnie, weeks later, sophisticated ransom notes, plenty of videos posted by the Guthrie family pleading for their mother to come home, but still no sign of Nancy Guthrie and still no real solid suspects outside of the one we see in that doorbell cam video.
Yeah, it's a lot of things just don't make sense to a lot of us right now. Thanks so much, Cody. You've got Mr. Walmart on the porch with his Walmart outfit, and you've got this sophisticated notes that are being described by Harvey Levin. What does it add up to? That brings us to the next question in our investigation. Why was Nancy Guthrie taken? Joining me, private investigator, founder of Victim News Online, Erica Morse is here, and creator and host of Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Gray Hughes is with us. Great to see you both here. Gray, I know you always have a lot of theories. You're always diving into these things. What are your thoughts on the why of it?
I guess the why is the question. I wish, there's like three different reasons. You might say that it was an abduction for ransom that went wrong. It was an abduction to make somebody feel a certain, to make it look like it was an abduction for ransom, but it really wasn't, just to create the situation, with the family, with Savannah being so upset that maybe it was directed towards her. That part's hard to say, but I'd like to throw out this, the theory where—
Let it fly.
At one, yeah. So on 147, at 147, you see him near the camera. He doesn't care that he's being filmed. You can just tell he doesn't care that he's being filmed at all. He's just looking for something to cover the camera. And the reason he's looking for something to cover the camera is because he's going to be pulling a car up right in the background there to bring Nancy out of the house. So I think you can look at that and say that that is actually what he was going to do. Then I think once he removed the camera, he walked away for a while to see if law enforcement would show up. Then at about like 2:07, after waiting about 20 minutes or so, he drove the car and parked it right there. And then he goes around the back of the house, jumps over the fence, and then at 2:12, the camera in the back picks up the motion. Then he goes inside the house, confronts Nancy, however that went down. And then as they're coming out the door, he's to her right, and she kind of bent over, coughed a little bit, and he's having her walk out at gunpoint to the vehicle that he had right there. And at 2:28 is about exactly that same time when her pacemaker disconnected from her cell phone. So it just absolutely makes sense if you look at it like that.
Erica Morse, how are you seeing all this? Is there a clear why at this point, or is that something that we won't know until we get a suspect?
Oh no, that's actually a two-part question, Vinnie. And the first part of that is she was taken because her disappearance solved a problem. That's why she was taken. Now it's identifying who benefited from her disappearance. Because that's what we have to look at in investigations. This is about victimology at this point. I understand that Gray's working off of a theory, so are 500 other analysts. You know, I work with a lot of content creators, Vinnie, and my friend Prof always says, there are too many what ifs. When you're throwing out theories, too many what ifs. So go back to what you know. And what we know statistically is 1% to 2% of all abductions are random, are stranger abductions. 98% roughly are not. And we know in victimology that she was taken because her disappearance solved a problem for someone. So now it's up to the FBI through these two unknown DNAs. Hopefully that genealogy comes back, and we will determine who that person is, hopefully, that will benefit from her disappearance.
Gray, how confident are you in the way the investigation has progressed, and specifically with the two entities, right, Pima County and the FBI working? Do you get the feeling they're working together, or do you think there are some issues there that people have been talking about that may slow down the progress?
I mean, it does seem like there's issues, except when you listen to the sheriff talk about it, he seems to deny that there's problems, but then other reporters who are speaking with the FBI side, you know, anonymously, I guess, have sort of a different take on it. There was one thing I did want to throw out there for your audience, is that the blood trail, apparently there's been new reporting where the blood droplets are actually in the home.
Ooh.
Okay, so there's droplets in the home, out the door, and then Fox News actually had images of the blood droplets all the way down onto the gravel path leading right to where the driveway is. So that's what's all informing, you know, the theory that I have. I use just the facts of the case to theorize. So every single thing that you're
Sure.
Hearing from me is based on the facts of the case. But yeah, I'm not really confident in the sheriff. You know, him running the show. It doesn't. I mean, I wish the FBI had this control this from the get-go and was running it.
Yeah, Erica, I know you've been involved in some cases where there's been conflicts within law enforcement, sometimes members seeing things differently and not necessarily getting along. What are your thoughts here and how this is progressing with, you know, the feds, who are now apparently moving their central operation back to their home base of Phoenix, out of Tucson, and Pima County?
I think that this is the strangest case we've ever seen in terms of the amount of resources. I mean, I've been doing missing persons cases now for 15 years, Vinnie, and I've never seen the White House make an official statement on social media. all eyes are on this case, and therefore the amount of pressure that this sheriff feels must be beyond overwhelming. I've worked high-profile cases as an investigator, and everybody has an opinion. Everybody thinks that somebody's doing something wrong. However, that being said, because of the amount of attention, let's just throw every resource from the FBI available. And it's okay for a sheriff, no matter of a small town or a large city, to admit when they are in over their heads on a case. It's okay for them to ask for that help. It's okay for them to say, we're not specialized in this area. Maybe we need to turn it over to the folks who are.
Yeah. Erica Morse, Victim News Online. Thank you so much. Gray Hughes Investigates. Make sure you check it out on YouTube. Coming up next, what was in the backpack?
We will not rest. Your children will not rest.
This is the story of the Richins. Eric, a father of 3, met an untimely end, and Corey, his widow, wrote a children's book on grief.
She's also charged now with his murder. He was faced with betrayal and terror.
I know her innocence.
Is their story a tragic romance?
Or a twisted tale of grief? The truth will come out.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
We know that millions of you have been praying. So many people have been praying of every faith and no faith at all, praying for her return, and we feel those prayers. Please keep praying without ceasing. We still believe.
Okay, I want to bring back in Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas and to talk about that backpack. Cody, I know we ordered one of those backpacks and trying to figure out, because the image to me is so powerful of that backpack, seems to be just jam-packed. What can you fit inside of that thing?
Yeah, Vinny, yeah. When you look at that image, you can clearly see that suspect has a full backpack full of who knows what, but we do know, according to police, that is an Ozark Trail backpack. As you mentioned, we ordered it. This is it right here. Walmart exclusive Ozark Trail 25-liter backpack. Again, exclusive to Walmart. Let's take a look at what it looks like. Again, I'm kind of the similar build of the suspect. They said he's between 5'9", 5'11"-ish. I might have an inch on him or something like that, but this is what it would look like filled, you know, from the back. We have a comparison there. So, black backpack, Ozark Trail here, but let's take a look inside as to the items we got in this backpack, Vinny, as much as we were able to put in it. Now, again, we don't know what the suspect had in his, but we just wanted to fill this up with some stuff to get it out. So we got a big blue tarp here, still wrapped up. Still, it's kind of a thick tarp that you would put over a pool or something. Pretty thick, I had to fold that up. We got the same tarp unpacked where I could roll it a little bit more and kind of a little more malleable there. We got a big, thick blanket situation that I really had to force down in here. We got this one. Now, this is huge and big. This is probably the biggest thing and the densest thing that I could fit in there as I was forcing. And of course, we got the suspect's trusty mask here that I was also able to get in there. So, Vinny, you know, when I first looked at this backpack, it looked a little small. You know, 25 liters, that sounds pretty big, knowing 2-liter soda bottles and everything. Looked a little small, but clearly a big pile of things can fit inside that backpack.
All right, Cody Thomas, great work as always tonight. Thank you very much, sir. That brings us to the final question in our investigation this hour, and it's about the backpack. What was in the backpack? Cody gave us a good idea of how much space there is in there, so what's on the realm of possibilities here? Joining me to help answer this question, true crime podcaster from Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Tony Bruschi is here, and still with us, retired police officer Dr. Mike McCutcheon. All right, Tony, what are your thoughts about it holds a little bit more than I thought when we saw it last night, not filled. What are your thoughts about what could possibly be inside that jam-packed backpack?
I'm going with fleece blanket, Yahtzee board, and Michael Bolton's greatest hits on vinyl. Maybe he planned a cozy evening. We don't know. But I think what's in the backpack really depends on what the intent was, which we don't know. If this was a break-in gone wrong, you're looking at tools of the trade, pry bar, flashlight, maybe a pillowcase for valuables, or a bag. Inside a bag, you show up with one pack, you leave with two. The outer bag is your kit. The inner bag is your haul. That's how you move someone's belongings and still have room for what you brought. Burglars do it all the time. He expects an empty house, but Nancy's there, and now he's got a problem. And nothing that will be solved by those bags or the bag. If Nancy was the target, that's a different story entirely. Restraints, zip ties, duct tape, change of clothes for himself, maybe something to sedate her, items to control someone you intend to move. That's premeditation, that's planning. But we just don't know if they can recover the bag in the state it was in that night. That would tell us a lot about intent. But we're 4 weeks in, and the odds of that are slim to nil, that pack is still intact, unless they find the guy, long expired, porch guy, with the pack, having met his demise somewhere in the desert, which I doubt that's going to happen either. So I think everyone's guess is as good as mine.
Dr. Mike McCutcheon, the backpack is just filled to the brim. And I think Tony's right on when he talks about premeditation. There's a plan. And I guess the question is, what was that plan and what are the items in there that are needed for him to fulfill that plan?
The backpack itself is more telling that it was a pre-planned operation. So whatever's in there, and we can speculate whether it was something to commit the crime, whether it was something to move her, whether to steal, but it shows the pre-planning. Whatever is in there are the tools of what the suspect had. What we didn't see is that he took anything out of the backpack to get into the house. So that is, I haven't seen anything that shows whether there was a forced entry or a pry bar or a door was kicked in or what the circumstances were with that. But we don't see him using anything from it to enter the house, at least in that short clip. But it shows the pre-planning, and it could be something to maybe to obscure her vision, to put over her head, whatever it may be, to move her to a vehicle, some type of wrap. It really is difficult to tell because we don't know the plan. So it could be to do the pre-planning to get her. It could be something in there for the after planning once she leaves. But the important piece is that this certainly would show pre-planning. If they find who abducted her, I know that they're going to look at that backpack and say, well, clearly you went there with intent because you brought tools to the job.
You know, we only have about 20 seconds left here, Tony Bruschi, but what's interesting is there's nothing in that backpack to deal with the camera. Instead, he's reaching for shrubberies.
Yeah, it shows a level of lack of sophistication, I think, in that fact. You have nothing prepared for this, no tape, no spray paint, nothing. You're going for the shrubs. It says a lot. I really wish we knew it was in that pack. It would tell us a lot.
All right, big thanks. Tony Bruschi, Dr. Mike McCutcheon, always great to see you guys. All right, how well planned was this crime? Well, it was planned well enough that after 3.5 weeks, there's been no identification of a suspect, any arrest, or unfortunately, any sign of Nancy Guthrie. So regardless of how clueless the Walmart suspect, the guy bought stuff at Walmart, we believe, suspect looks on video, tonight, he's still walking free, and we don't know where Nancy is. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.